Hey, it's Aaron,
It's Sarah.
and this is 31 Nights of Scary Shit. Hi, how you doing tonight? You.
Hey. Oh, me?
You. Yes, you. Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking to everybody
Well,
else.
I am. I hope all of the few of you that may be listening, but
We might need to stop that joke at some point.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
All right, maybe after
I'm okay with it still, though.
after episode 5, maybe I'll stop. But no, I was asking you. How are you? How was your day?
I mean, it was a day.
It was a day. It was a day. I agree. But
it was a Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday, and it feels like it's Friday already. But
that's for real.
I'm really happy to be decompressing and talking about some scary shit. Now, what I want to say about this story for today is I'm equally excited and nervous in a way that, okay, here's the thing about this story. So this story can be a little convoluted. I mean, as it's told.
I mean, I'm not shocked. Most of the things we've talked about are
convoluted. Yes. Well, that's the point. That's the comparison I'm drawing. Because the details of this story are often kind of convoluted anyway, I feel like my research method was convoluted, so therefore it was appropriate. But I will tell you that I'm going to say that I used some sources that I thought were pretty good. One was the really cool documentary called The Mothman of Point Pleasant. It was a great documentary, so I did refer to that. But I went to the old fallback. I did use allthat'sinteresting.com.
Love it.
I also used cryptids.
Obviously.
.fandom.com.
That seems legit.
Well, I think I got a lot of info from that.
I'm just saying, if the cryptozoologists don't know,
yeah, is that all? No, there has to be more. Well, you know what? All I'm saying is, disclaimer, none of this is from my original thoughts. So anyway.
I would hope not.
No, none of this is from my original thoughts. Okay, so this is the Mothman. And when I talk about the Mothman, I'm referring specifically to a particular period where the Mothman was sighted in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So that would be the period between November 12th, 1966 and December 15th, 1967. So Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Now, I will say that, yes, there were reported sightings other places. That's true. But I'm just going to focus kind of in on that particular area. I think the different thing about this story for me is I don't know that I can convey the true creepiness of it by just talking about it. So I'm going to try to do it justice, but for me, I feel like this is a psychologically creepy story because as far as I know...
Oh no, for real it is.
Because the difference between this and say us talking about a murder or something else, like as far as I know, no one was actually physically hurt. You know what I mean?
No, I don't like that. But, I mean, not to say that I would prefer to be harmed, but...
Yeah, so it's a whole different level of trying to convey that people who reported having these sightings, some of them had some severe psychological distress. Something happened. Let's put it this way:
some creepy shit went down
to instill this kind of fear, and then to hear some people call it a sense of pure evil. So I don't need to necessarily see something, in form, to be scared, but that overwhelming feeling of like foreboding that maybe you feel when you get scared, I think that that's just as bad. Anyway.
And then your imagination goes crazy. So no matter what you're seeing, it is definitely not really that whole truth.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where somebody sees something and then they tell their friends and they tell their friends and so on. And then they kind of like get into it and it could turn into this mass hysteria kind of thing. But something went down and
some shit went down.
Something went down. And what I like about this is it's got everything that you need in a story. So it's got a mystery.
Down with that.
It's got UFOs and supposed aliens.
Check that box.
It's got, distress and fear, and it's got a bunch of people.
I don't want to check that box, but check it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got all the makings of. It's a really good story. Now, it's been a number of years since I read the book, and it's been a number of years since I've seen the movie, but both really creeped me out. I just felt like
the movie definitely creeped me out.
Yeah.
A visual definitely creeped me out.
Yeah, and I will talk about the movie because I'll talk about some sort of comparison things. But anyways, so a little bit of background about Point Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So it's a town, population of around 5,000. So it's a small town. I can kind of identify with that being from a small town. So I have an image in my head of like what it's like in that town based on some of the interviews that I saw with the people. It's a close knit town, and they seem to all kind of share this common bond due to this Mothman legend that has happened. So,
I feel like you would bond over
yeah,
seeing a mythical
yeah,
bird-like creature.
yeah. And the thing is, I think, and because it's not a large metropolitan area, because people know each other, know their business, and that, I feel like it's one of those things that it happens and it just kind of stays with you. It just kind of keeps going and getting passed down and passed down. Like people are still celebrating it, talking about it. They have a festival.
Can we go to the
Yeah,
Mothman
I
Festival?
absolutely want to go to it. Now I heard that this year that they had to cancel, due to COVID and all that, or they had to at least.
COVID.
I know. But there's some things I'll talk about regarding current Mothman information. But anyways, in order to understand a bit about what happened, a little bit of the history, I won't go too much into it because honestly, I'm not a great historian. So this is a town of folk who believe very much in, they believe a lot in bad luck. They believe a lot in when things happen that it can be attributed to a source of bad luck. Now, geographically speaking, this is an area that has flooded quite a bit. So apparently between 1883 and 1950, Point Pleasant flooded 75 times due to the Ohio River.
That's too many times.
Well, I mean, and I believe it. So, anyways, but to go back to the early origins, so 1774-ish, pre-Revolutionary War. So there is a belief that the legendary chief Cornstalk, who was referred to as like the king of the Shawnee tribe, that he had actually put a curse on this particular area. He wanted to be peaceful. And while he was...
Well, a curse isn't very peaceful.
No, it is not. However...
you're going to tell me how we get to the curse.
I was going to tell you, yeah. Cornstalk, by accounts that I researched, was seen as a very reasonable, peaceful man. He reluctantly got involved in fighting over land. He really didn't want to do it. So he had signed a peace treaty, apparently. And then in 1777, he was making a visit to, I guess, Fort Randolph. Mm-hmm. And he was murdered. Basically, a group of rogue soldiers who were not given an order to kill him. They take him prisoner, they murder him, and they also kill his son. So supposedly, before dying...
that'll do it.
Yeah, supposedly before dying, he curses the area, which is now Point Pleasant. And I'm going to say this. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I feel like behind a lot of these hauntings, there is often a tale of a Native American burial ground.
I'm just going to say, listen, they were here before us. Yep. They are going to be here long after us.
Yes.
I'm just saying the entirety of the United States is built on, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
So, and we stole their land. So
absolutely.
That doesn't help.
Yeah. So what I say is what I say with the utmost respect is, yeah, of course, I believe that behind a lot of these hauntings, yes, there's that leftover energy that we've talked about, of injustice, and the killers were not brought to justice, I don't think. But anyway, so this area...
No, because shocker, they're white men.
Yeah, so this area becomes Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And the people believe that the curse may potentially have caused these Mothman sightings.
God, I hope so.
I know. But anyways, so
that's terrible.
I tried to stick to a timeline of events, and here's what was happening. So there were a lot of different names and a lot of witnesses, and I was my approach, I think, was a bit off because I was trying to get every single witness and their very specific stories. And then what I realized is they kind of all sort of said the same things basically about the physical appearance and their fear and what happened. So, and I was a little concerned about getting the names wrong. So I'm not going to omit names because I don't care about that. I just feel like I was starting to mix and match names, and I don't want to get it wrong. So,
better to just not give a name than mess it up.
Better to say witnesses. So, anyways, now I know I said that this started November 12th, but prior to that, on November 1st, in 1966, apparently there was a National Guardsman who saw something resembling a Mothman in a tree. Now, this is in McClendon, Virginia. And then on November 12th, 1966, in Clenendon, West Virginia, apparently a gravedigger also saw something that he described as a brown human. Now, we're not talking about a person of color. We're talking about...
But did he mean a person of color? I mean, what time period? 1966? I mean, maybe. I feel like I'm apt to believe the gravedigger.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, I would definitely believe a gravedigger.
Let's put it this way. Their descriptions were vague, okay? But they definitely saw something that they were like, I don't know. Is it a guy? What is it? Like, it's just vague. So they didn't get real into it. Anyway, so all accounts that I researched, people tend to say similar things. So they're driving along in that area, and they see what appears to be a very large bird hovering above them. Okay, so in the case of them seeing the entity or whatever you want to call it above them, this is what really scares me. So they see this and they're like, okay, well, it could be a bird. And then it keeps up with them as they're driving. I don't like this.
No, I don't like
I don't like this at all. So I don't care what it is. I don't care what kind of creature it is. You're keeping up with me, and they're saying they're going at speeds of like 100 miles an hour because they're so terrified. So I right there, this thing is chasing them. So whether or not that thing ever actually descends and does anything physical, the fact is it kept up with them while they were driving at a high speed.
That's a big fat no.
Yeah. And imagine this. So most of the accounts were that this was 6 to 7 foot tall, either man, bird, with about a 10-foot wingspan.
Almost like a condor?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how big a condor is,
no idea.
And they all agree that the red eyes, something glowing that appeared to be eyes. And then here's an interesting thing too, and this reminds me almost of like a superhero. So when it took flight, it's almost as if it went straight up, like shoots up, and then appears to start flying. But it was really clumsy if it was on foot. Now, this on foot thing, I don't know, because some people said it looked like it didn't have feet. But on the ground, it supposedly was really, really clumsy.
Well, if it didn't have feet, I would imagine it would be clumsy.
Yeah, but I know.
The shooting straight up, that's like the vampires from True Blood.
Yeah, I know.
Just right up into the air.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of, I don't like that.
Yeah, so at any rate, people were chased. They were chased while they were driving. So this was reported. Naturally, it's reported, the story gets out, and the newspaper does report these sightings. Anyway, the physical account, all very similar. So one thing I wanted to mention also specifically, now I do know this person's name, so I'm just going to go ahead. So in Salem, West Virginia, there was a guy named Newell Partridge, and when I first heard this, it didn't sound... Originally, what I had was he saw a pattern on his TV. I hate when I do air quotes and you can't really see me. So
I can see you.
Yeah, I know.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So first of all, when I saw a pattern, I'm like, well, what does that mean? And I thought of poltergeist, where the communication...
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm going to go into why I don't really like the thought of an entity communicating through electronics. I'll get into that. That's a whole thing. But anyway, after I saw the interview with him, it was more of a high fever pitch generator sound that came through his TV. And imagine what a generator sounds like.
Absolutely do not want to.
And a real high pitch kind of a squeal, very unpleasant. And then his TV blows up.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
And then he hears something outside. He sees what appears to be 2 red eyes. And his dog takes off and is never seen again.
Okay, that dog got eaten.
Yeah, by something. So
that was a midnight snack.
And I have to say, again, we talk about how people, when you hear of a story, you feel inclined to maybe replicate it. You want to get in on it. But this guy was just sounding so legit. He was just like, well, this weird thing happened. And I believed him. I totally believed that something very bizarre had happened. The dog never being found again. I don't know. It doesn't, doesn't make any sense.
It's
Anyways.
bizarre.
Now, this other guy that I want to talk about, Woodrow Derenberger. So he's very interesting. So on
What
November,
a name.
Woodrow Derenberger.
That's a solidly
Yeah.
hard to spell name.
Yeah, Woodrow Derenberger. So on November 2nd, he has a run-in with what seemed to be a UFO. He was driving along Parkersburg, West Virginia, and he encounters, supposedly he is the first person or one of the first people to encounter an extraterrestrial being that may or may not have been actually tied to the Mothman. So I will go more into that, but he has to stop because whatever this thing is that is flying above him, this ship or machine or whatever it is, it spreads out. He has to stop. And apparently this very unusual being emerges and communicates with him telepathically.
I don't like that.
No, I don't like it either. And here's the thing, even if it's fake, I don't like it. Because when I read the book and just this mere description, so he meets the infamous grinning man, which I also don't like.
Don't like that
I don't like
either.
a person wearing a grin the whole time. Yeah, I don't like it.
You can't see my face, but I just made a creepy smiling
face. I don't like.
You can imagine it.
Yeah, I don't like the grinning man. And he's unusually tall, so I'll get more into that. But he is the person who really has the insight about this Indrid Cold person who communicates with him telepathically. And I'll get more into that. But I want to talk about the explanations of possibly what this bird creature might be. So there was a guy named Robert L. Smith, and he was the associate professor of wildlife biology at WVU. And he thought that maybe it was a sandhill crane.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
And apparently, for real, this sandhill crane is almost as tall as a human. I'm like, that's scary anyway.
I don't like that.
No.
And that's in West Virginia? What the hell is going on in West Virginia?
I don't know. But apparently this thing could resemble, at least in size, a human man. And it does have red flesh around its eyes. And I'm like, well, even if that's for real, it's still terrifying. I don't know. Now, they didn't mention if this sandhill crane could fly 100 miles an hour. I don't know, but
yeah, I feel like that definitely would need to be a detail we would need to know.
But there's always going to be a debunker, and okay, that could be. And then there also was a theory that it was a large owl. I've never known an owl to be this big, but apparently there was an enormous owl that had been spotted in Cornwall, England in the 70s that was kind of monstrous as well. So again, the theory that yes, it's explainable, or maybe it was mutated wildlife because this was an area that had been the site of munitions. It was an area where TNT was being stored, and even though it was shut down, they feel the ground got contaminated. So if it's a contamination site, again, it's did something weird happen with the animals? So if you're detecting a rather abrupt change or odd shift in momentum, I'll explain why. So our neighbor who finally decided to mow the jungle that had grown in the yard decided to do this during our podcast, which was unfortunate.
And it was so loud.
And it was really loud, and we think he might have blown up his mower because
he definitely blew up his mower.
He waited too long, and then I looked out there and saw that he looked kind of distraught. It's actually kind of funny. It's actually kind of funny. But anyway, so that would be why there was a sudden break in the action, and now I'm going to try to recreate the momentum. Anyway, I believe I was talking about the fact that potentially the Mothman could have been a mutated animal as a result of the contamination at the McClintock Wildlife Management Association area.
You guys can't see me, but I'm pointing at Aaron to close the door.
Oh.
Just to keep the
Okay. Anyways,
audio without echoing. Sorry.
So I won't belabor that point, but again, those who wish to debunk this story feel that it could have potentially been an animal that was exposed to this radiation.
I would totally buy that.
I mean, I would too, and I have seen what happens when things mutate, because when I was in college, I used to work at there's a paper mill in my town, and
yeah, I feel like paper mills. There's never anything
well, yeah, there wasn't, and So there are all kinds of chemicals and whatnot. I won't get into the whole thing, but I remember one time I was working inside of the mill in a really hot spot near various materials that we probably shouldn't have been around, probably
Oh
shouldn't have been around. But
no.
anyways, we were cleaning inside of this area and we saw these really bright metallic looking covered insects. And I'm telling you, like, I still don't know if it was a fly,
I'm not down with that.
if it was a moth, it
or
was
like a beetle.
it maybe, I mean, it was one of those things like it morphed into something. Whatever it was disproportionately sized as to whatever it was, and it was like fluorescent, like it was glowing. So whatever chemicals, whatever was going on in there, I think it was creating these mutant insects. And I don't like things that are not appropriately sized. Like, I get really freaked out. So like,
That's what she said.
yeah, well, and so like things that are supposed to not be really big and then they are, or really small, the opposite. I just get really freaked out. I don't like it. I like things.
Agree.
I like things to be appropriately sized. Anyway, so again, it could possibly be debunked by this. I don't know, but I'm going to focus a bit on the tragedy that occurred. So the Silver Bridge was actually built in 1928, and it was built to connect Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio. And Gallipolis, yes.
The solid polis.
Yep. It sure is. Anyway.
Sure is.
So I'm going to try to say this without being too upbeat. I feel like I'm bringing too much of a high energy to this, but this is a tragedy for real. So on December 15th, 1967, there was a rush hour collapse of the Silver Bridge. It killed 46 people. It injured 9 others. 31 cars fell into the river. Now, remember, this is part of the whole era of the Mothman, and supposedly after this date, December 15th, there weren't any more sightings. Now, the superstitious nature of the people in the town, they felt that possibly the Mothman's appearance was, a bad omen. It was a harbinger of danger, of evil, or whatnot. But anyway, this was a horrible tragedy. And the town seems to still be affected by this, based on when I was watching the documentary and the interviews. But anyway, terrible thing that happened. And interestingly, I wanted to mention this. So I was noting that as I was researching for this podcast, that there were some things that were coincidentally kind of tied to me, just things with like the year and everything, the years of certain things. So John Keel, who was the author of the Mothman Prophecies, he actually, the book came out in 1975, the year I was born. And
Evil.
Yeah, well, and interestingly, he died on my birthday. He died on my birthday, July 3rd. He died in 2009, but remember I kept saying that I felt like, I seem to keep choosing things, like I'm being drawn to certain things, and they've got these weird sort of coincidences. So, but anyway, just a fun fact there. I want to get back to Indrid Cold, because Indrid Cold is my favorite part of this whole story.
Is that the grinning man?
Yeah, the grinning man, the smiling man, and I don't know what to make of it. At any rate, he both fascinates and terrifies me, but apparently he meant no harm, because...
Do you think they are related, the Mothman and Indrid Cold?
Well, okay, so there are people who naturally think that he's one of the same, that he is the Mothman. However, there wasn't any evidence that the two of them... how do I want to say this? So, let's put it this way. They didn't appear together. Right? They didn't appear together.
Yes, but me and Batman have never been in the same room, and I am most definitely not Batman.
So you can't really prove or disprove. So they, as far as I know, they were never seen together. I don't know. But was he a shapeshifter? Was he morphing into something else? I don't know. I mean, because Indrid Cold's characteristics, if you listen to this, so there were some people who said he looked normal and human-like. At times the appearance was described as he had slicked back hair and he had features, but he was grinning and he wore normal clothing.
Yeah, but the grinning makes me feel like it's an alien trying to mimic a human.
Yes, I agree. But then, you have other accounts. So there were these teenagers that saw him, and they said he didn't have a nose, and he didn't have
Voldemort.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he didn't have a nose, and he didn't have hair, and his eyes were really spaced far apart. So
again, it sounds like an alien trying to mimic a
yeah,
human.
yeah. Well, anyway, if you want to go with that, so when he appeared to Woodrow Derringer in Parkersburg, West Virginia, so Woodrow Derringer says that this UFO Derenberger. I don't know. Is it Derenberger?
I think it's Derenberger.
Derenberger. Oh gosh. Anyways,
it's okay. I got you.
I'm glad
Woodrow Derenberger.
I'm actually glad you corrected me. So anyway, he claims that this UFO resembled what he described as an old-fashioned kerosene lamp chimney, and I quote that. I don't know what that looks like.
What?
I mean, I know what an old-fashioned kerosene lamp looks like.
Yeah, I guess it would have like the big, tall, like straight part on the top.
I guess. I mean, I know what a kerosene lamp looks like, but as far as it being a chimney, I don't know. But anyways, it landed in front of his truck, and he claims that a man, Indrid Cold, telepathically told him, "My name is Indrid Cold. I mean you no harm. I'm from the planet Lanulos." Lanulos, which kind of sounds Greek, doesn't it? I don't know. And that he's from the Ganymedes galaxy, which also to me sounds a bit Greek. I don't know. But anyways.
Sounds Greek to me.
Yeah, all sounds Greek to me. But anyway, Indrid said, "I don't mean you any harm." And apparently he starts asking him these questions like, "What is that over there?" Like, "It's a city. What are those lights over there?" Like asking about the stuff that's around. But this is all done telepathically.
So, I don't like that. No, I don't want something
I don't like
in my
it either.
mind.
And it sounds hokey, but I don't like it either. So apparently they do communicate telepathically. And there were other beings that were mentioned. I don't really know for sure if these beings stepped outside of the craft, but there was a mention of two other beings named Demo Hassan and Carl Ardo. So apparently when Indrid went to get back into the capsule or the ship or whatever, apparently a hand reached out as if to like pull him back in. So there may have been other beings there with him.
No.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Now, Woodrow was not apparently the only one to see Indrid Cold, and supposedly even before Woodrow, there were two teenagers in New Jersey who also reported a very tall, bald, grinning man wearing, but see, he wasn't dressed normally this time. He was wearing a metallic green suit, which sounds like a Martian, right? They're alien. And then the boys also said that he had no ears or a nose. Yikes.
No ears, no nose. That's definitely an alien.
Yeah. So again,
like I know, like I'm an expert.
But again, I think you're right. If that's true, so the conflicting reports could mean that he's somewhat of a shifter. He's mimicking an appearance. But all reports say that he was peaceful. He clearly he didn't harm anybody. But also happening at this time, this whole Mothman era, there are a huge amount of UFO sightings being reported. And Mary Hyre was the correspondent. I believe she wrote for an Ohio newspaper, but she was a correspondent in the town, and she was sort of like the records keeper. And she was getting so many accounts of UFO sightings, and she had her own column. Let me see, what was it called off the top of my head? It was called Where the Waters Mingle. So she reported all facts and all things related to the UFO activity, Mothman, whatever. She hooked up with, not romantically.
She hooked up.
As far as I know, I don't know.
You know.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have said it that way. But so Mary Hyre and John Keel actually kind of like team up. They collaborate. And John Keel was he was a journalist, investigative journalist, and he was out in New York. Well, he liked to investigate the weird, the unusual. He liked the whole UFO thing, and he came from New York because he heard about this. And like I said, he gets together with Mary Hyre, and they collaborate. Apparently, so this is the other part. So the MIBs, the Men in Black, apparently people were reporting that these mysterious MIBs driving black sedans, wearing all black, wearing fedoras and glasses, were selectively knocking on doors and asking people questions. So anybody who had reported some sort of a UFO sighting, some contact with Indrid Cold, apparently these mysterious men were knocking on doors and they were questioning people, asking these really weird questions. They spoke in weird dialects. Something just didn't seem right.
Weird.
Apparently, Mary Hyre was also visited by these MIBs. John Keel felt that he was being followed. He said his phone was tapped. So somebody didn't like all this reporting. And then there was a guy named, what was his name? Hold on. Tad Jones. So Mary Hyre reported about a guy named Tad Jones who saw a UFO on Highway 64. And after that, Jones said he got a note that was slipped under his door that said, "We know what you have seen. We know that you've talked, and you should keep your mouth shut."
Oh, I
Creepy.
don't like that.
Creepy, creepy, creepy. So again, somebody didn't want anybody talking about this. So, couple of things though I also wanted to mention. So if you're into this story and you like UFOs and this sort of thing, so there was a book that preceded all of this by an author named Gray Barker. And he wrote a book about they knew too much about flying saucers, which kind of predates the sort of MIB and all these conspiracy theories. So apparently that's interesting, which I might look into.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Woodrow Derenberger's daughter, I think it's Tanya, also wrote a book called Beyond Lanulos.
Beyond Lanulos.
And I think the other part of it is 50 Years with Indrid Cold. So she writes an account of the Indrid Cold situation. So
we could start a scary shit book club at this point.
Yeah,
like we're gonna give you all the spooky books to read.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as big into UFOs, I guess, as I maybe am ghosts or true crime and that, but I do love a conspiracy.
I love a conspiracy. I also love a good UFO story.
I love a good UFO story because I don't think it's implausible at all. I don't think it's implausible. All a UFO means is we don't know what the hell it is, but I don't feel that it is completely.
I just like the prospect of it being like a combination of cryptid and UFO, but simultaneously happening. It's almost like when this is a terrible analogy, so you can hate me all you want. When there are two serial killers active in the same area, but they confuse it as one singular thing.
No, it's a good
analogy. It could literally be two separate things happening concurrently, unfortunately. Or it could be related to each other, which is creepy, but it's all creepy. It's all creepy shit, man.
So unlike Mothman, who apparently does not appear after December 15th, 1967, Indrid Cold apparently did. I don't know.
Really?
Indrid Cold apparently did. Well, according at least to Derenberger's, to that story. So, however, Mothman was described as showing up in other parts of the world, though. I think Chicago, I didn't really do much research on that, but I think there was a Mothman sighting in Chicago.
Yeah, there was like a big one. I was reading about it. I guess it was like seen by a large number of people. But I think this Mothman was a little different. I think there might have actually been physical contact. I'm not 100% certain, but I don't think there's been Indrid Cold like sightings in particular, but like I have heard about the grinning man.
Yeah.
Like that's like a common theme of like these aliens that come down and they try to mimic humans and they just look like a weird distorted missing body parts. Things are weirdly spaced or sized. It's just very bizarre.
Yeah.
It's just very bizarre. And like the whole Mothman thing, it's just like, is it a big bird? Because that'd be kind of disappointing, but like it would kind of make sense.
Yeah. And whether or not you're gonna believe, I still think it's a good story. I want to talk about the movie a bit. I do want to talk about the movie because it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but I will tell you, and you know this, I've said this before. I find the most terrifying part about the movie is the conversation with Indrid Cold on the phone because
in the motel room.
Because for some reason, to me, I don't like the idea of a supernatural being calling. Bless you. I don't like the fact that he would call me on the phone. There's something.
No, I don't like that.
There's something about, and it might stem back from when I was a kid and we used to have the landlines, and you could do this crazy thing like you could call your own number.
Oh, I don't like that.
Oh, yeah, you could call your own number and the phone would ring. I can't remember how it worked.
You were talking about calling your own number and that door just opened.
Yeah, I know, that was really weird.
Me out.
And I think it's a cat. It is. It's a cat. Thank God. Okay.
For a second, I was like, "Great, this is how we die."
Yeah. And hello. Oh, hello.
Hi, Lenny. He's making an appearance on the podcast. Maybe he'll make a noise, and you'll hear him. Doubtful, but maybe he will. Anyway,
so getting back to the whole phone situation. So when we were younger, it was a good babysitting trick. Hence the crazy movie with the
Oh, when a
babysitter, and
stranger calls,
you know,
yeah.
he's calling from inside the house. So you really could do this. You could dial your own
And it
number.
would ring?
Yes, it would.
That's
Absolutely,
crazy.
absolutely, it would. So of course you're going to scare the shit out of yourself that way, right?
Oh my god, we're gonna have a cat
Yeah.
noise on here. Sorry if there is a weird
Purring
purring
noise,
noise or like jostling noise because he is just
snorting.
trying to snuggle right now. Lenny,
Yep.
honey, baby. Okay, there we go. He's all right.
So anyway, yeah, I have a problem with phone situations and phone pranks. I think I was pranked one too many times, and for some reason I find that more terrifying than actually talking to the creature face to face. I don't like something communicating electronically. I don't like the poltergeist thing where it's talking through the
No.
TV,
No.
anything like that. Well, one thing is I can hear it. I have a problem with not being able to see it but also hearing it. It's an auditory thing with
Oh,
me.
like almost like throwing your voice kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't know why. There's something about a voice and me not knowing what's attached to that voice that I don't like. I'd rather see it. I'd rather also see it and hear it at
that
the
is
same time.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to like see something but not hear it or hear something and not see it.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of want both at the same time so you can process it at the same
I
time.
want the whole terrifying sensory experience. I don't want to just have one or the other. But yeah, the phone call was the worst for me. I don't like it. I know that
Maybe we'll play it at the end of this episode.
Yeah, if we can pull it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe.
Well, let me try to.
Why don't you talk about the movie like a little bit more? Like
I will talk a bit about the movie and let's see what we can come up with here. So, okay, it's been a long time since I've seen the movie. I want to mention that. A long time since I've read the book. But what I gather from what I glean is that the character played by Richard Gere is actually based on John Keel. And I think he's John Klein in the movie or something like that.
Now,
oh no.
Sorry, why is it doing this?
Oh no.
Ah! It's full screen. This is what happens when you don't know how to do anything, people.
It's all right.
I'm gonna skip the ad.
It's all right. We've got a little bit of a jam going on here.
Oh.
Oh, did you find it? Oh, here it is.
So you kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah, I mean
it's a creepy, flippant voice, needless to say. Hopefully you were able to hear that in any kind of semblance.
So it's the same feeling you would have if any old human was talking to you on the phone and you said, "Well, what am I wearing?" And they said, "Well, you're wearing that black shirt," and you're like, "What the hell?" So
yeah,
now it's something that might not even be human. But yeah. So, anyways, the movie, the character that Richard Gere plays, based on John Keel. Apparently, they made him a bit more, well, a bit less of a UFO chaser. So like John Keel, I think was kind of deliberate in that he wanted to investigate this. If UFOs was his thing, but I think the John Klein character just kind of happens upon this bizarre thing that happens, and then of course the character played by Laura Linney is supposedly based on Mary Hyre.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they collaborate, and the whole idea of the Mothman being this omen, you know, the message that they're getting that the Mothman is trying to say, okay, this accident's going to happen, etc. I think that some of the characters are kind of just a composite of the witnesses kind of put together. But the one character, I guess, that sort of remains the most authentic is probably the character based on Derenberger. But other than that, I think it's a lot of just the compilation of the stories. But it's a really great story regardless of what you think. So it's like I said, it's got a little bit of everything. It's a mystery. It's got some spooky in there. It's got some legend.
Yeah, it definitely has some spooky ooky.
You know, I like an open-ended thing as much as I like closure. I mean, I would like to know for sure, but then again, that's kind of the fun of it, right? Like, yeah, you can probably debunk it, but you can't debunk it 100%. We don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing, right? Or sometimes it's not. So unless you've seen it, I don't know.
That's real.
Yeah, but I did want to mention that yes, there is a festival,
Oh my
which
god, yes.
they right after the movie came out. So, and apparently, 10 to 12,000 visitors show up at this thing every year.
Yes.
In 2003, there was a sculpture that was unveiled by a sculptor named Bob Roach. The Mothman Museum and Research Center opened in 2005, and here's a funny thing.
It's also a research center?
Yeah, I guess.
I love that.
And a funny thing, I find this to be the funniest of all. So, 2020, there was a petition that went around to replace all Confederate statues with the Mothman.
Yes.
Which I am in support of.
I will sign that. I think that's a great idea.
I don't know who put this out or where it is or if I can sign. I don't know, but yes.
Hashtag Mothman forever.
But yes,
literally,
I love
that'd
it.
be so cool. Or like you could do like different cryptids in different states.
Yes.
Like that'd be super cool. Like you could have like skunk ape in Florida and like Bigfoot in Washington State, like all those things. You could like specifically pick a cryptid. They all have the Jersey Devil in New Jersey.
I love it. I think it would go a long way in spreading some, I don't know, maybe it's not positive, but it's a different energy. It's a different
energy, and it's something that I would love to celebrate rather than asshole Confederate statues. I mean, where else why would you have losers as statues? I'm sorry, I hate whatever. I don't care what anyone thinks, honestly, about this. They lost. Why do they have statues? Mothman statues for everyone. Mothman is universal.
I do, but I want to say that I really, really want to go to the festival.
Yeah, that's for real. We need to do
now.
That.
It is like a 5-hour drive from where we're located to go.
Okay, that's not fun.
So no, but that's about the length of my travel for when I go visit my family. So I mean, it's doable.
Yeah, well, maybe
you'd have to make a weekend out of it, or at least an overnight trip.
Yeah, when COVID is over.
Yeah, of course, when COVID's over. But
or we just sleep in a car, which is just not fun. But anyway, so that was Mothman. That was pretty awesome. Thanks, Erin. That was fun.
It was fun, and like I said,
it was fun minus the Silver Bridge collapse.
Minus the Silver Bridge collapse. Yeah,
that's pretty horrific. But it's like loosely tied. Like it's tied, but it's more like these creatures came about to warn us, and we weren't paying attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Timely that when we ignore warnings, bad shit happens. I'm not going to get into specifics.
Just take the hint, America.
But you know
wear
what I mean.
A damn mask.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say it. I didn't say it. It was loosely implied, and then you said it.
Yeah, I said it. It's okay. I'll take it. It's fine. So, on our next episode, we're going to talk about it's not fun. It's definitely not fun. We go from like
we change gears.
We very abruptly change gears.
Yeah, that's all right.
The first full week of October, we're going to go into Joseph Callinger, who
I don't know much about him. So no, I mean I'm looking forward to it.
It's a doozy.
Yeah,
it's a doozy. Anyway, Anyway, it starts off like a series of different stories where it's going to be loosely related to Maryland because, shocker to the 4 people that are listening to this, we live in Maryland. So I thought it'd be fun to do, not fun, I don't mean fun like that, I mean interesting to do stories related to Maryland. So we're going to talk about Joseph Callinger, and it's going to be not as... not as, fun-loving as a UFO. So, we'll catch you tomorrow for some really scary shit.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And, hey, you know what? I'm going to say it. It's going to sound really...
Do it.
Stay spooky.